So my curiosity is like, you seem to have the sense that it's not really social, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And that this is something that makes sense to be embarrassed about in the future. And that, I mean, do you see it being replaced with something superior? And do you have like a vision or an idea of like what that might look like, or like how?
Yeah. I do think that just as we're seeing cultural trends in advertisements, like I get Vogue delivered to my house just as a photographer to like study the market, and I've seen a huge shift in depictive ads, a shift from very polished clean work more to like flash, and you see a shadow and it's not perfect. And even on like the internet, seeing people that are traditionally amazing filmmakers do experiments with like iPhones versus mirrorless cameras.
Yeah.
And the success is so much more for these depictive raw things. And like I think as a culture, we're like out of the stage of being like lied to. We don't want like airbrushing anymore. So I think a logical jumping point for the future of social media is something that Twitter failed at, but could come because it needs to be big. It needs to stay alive. Like the second they contemplated selling blue check marks was like the key definition of like the ending of that. But I think just as the advertisements have been more rebellious towards like clean, polished work, I think smaller social medias like Discord are things that are going to prevail, because there are great things for social media. For instance, like we can hear the truth from like people in other countries that like where their government would be the ones reporting like what was going on. But it's not personal. Like I can post a story and it's really weird to me that 700 people are viewing it, and that I used to be like, I'd go to Blue Post, gonna pop up a photo, and now like all of those people know that I'm there and can form an opinion on me before they even have met me or had a real conversation. And then when I do meet them, that conversation is primed with the person that they've already created in their head.
Right.
But Discord and other things that may arise, you control who's in a lounge. So you can have like a niche thing, like if you just wanted to have a social media for your creatives group, like then there's like 40 people in there and you can actually care and become a member of that community. And that's realistic.
Yeah.
Because like the advent of this amazing world where we see absolutely everything is also a death place for inspiration. Like I'm about to ADHD jump point away from here, but like Bo Burnham made this thing called Inside.
Yeah, I've seen that. I loved it.
It's like the most inspirational thing to me, and I was just showing it to my stepdadish guy the other day, and
Stepdadish guy.
Too much to go into there for the podcast.
I get it. Yeah. My mom's been married 4 times. I get it.
Okay. Yeah. Wait, maybe we're related. I'm just kidding. So it's super inspirational to me because it's this special that was put on Netflix that he made himself utilizing the best of the line equipment.
Yeah.
But still, because to me, it represents that I can do that. And then my stepdadish figure commented that it's really also like that is the peak of what a person can achieve. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but there's a somber like tone to that. And that's in part by encountering the whole world at large. And I think there is a problem with being demotivated if you're not going to be the person that's the best at something. Whereas there's still a place for you to be like the person that adds the creative value that you do in the small social media of like 100 people that you know.
Yes.
And that's more effective and it's more valuable to the human experience, I wager. And I think that's going to be a result of all of this. I think humans want more interpersonality.
Yes.
And in a way that they can handle. Like I said, I think based on this study I read, we can actually only truthfully handle 20 relationships. And so when you put people in that circle, you're inadvertently moving people out.
Yes.
So what I think is just like this is all a byproduct of this is a breaking point for what one brain can handle at once. And it's never gotten here with variables. We've never had this many people, this much technology. The world's never been this connected, which I sit here and I complain. I also think all this stuff's amazing. I do think it's amazing that people in China can tweet about what's happening, but like where there's darkness, there's light. Like it's an exchange. And just as I said earlier, or you said in the podcast, is that we're always going to be working towards becoming better. We can't like stop now. Yeah.
I think I also get this sense that people are craving as a almost like whiplash rebound effect of this over advertised like fake polished sort of highlights of reality way that we've been using social media, that people are getting this extreme unconscious hunger for, like, as soon as someone gets on there and they're raw and unfiltered and just spitting like direct truth.
Yeah.
And especially when it's uncomfortable truth and it's truth that hasn't really been expressed yet, but it's like they're not saying something that we haven't heard before. They're saying something that's inherent, like we all know, but we have yet to articulate. Those are the things that I see that actually give me hope when they have like organic traction, even in the algorithm as it is.
It's almost like an anchor point to reality, like reaffirming that these thoughts that you don't get to convey in everyday conversation, you're like, wait, I'm not crazy for thinking that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it goes to show you the depth and the power of that value of truth. Because, you know, as powerful as the manipulative tactics of advertising and marketing are, and falsifying beauty rather than capturing like real raw beauty, that's another thing too, where like you put, you know, false beauty looks attractive when you don't have real beauty to compare it to, but when you do, you see what's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that is part of that value of truth of, you know, I feel like we're in a gross place that we are going to, in hindsight, years later, be laughing about.
Yeah.
And a little, embarrassed about.
It's like the marginalization of the entire human experience of like what makes it special, if I were to summarize social media.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost seems too like, if you think about like the invention of the computer and like the mass consumption, like when it became like a consumer product, a lot of us were just using it to play like solitaire on. Like that's funny to look back at. And I think that this is a version of social media. Like the first thing we went to was just like the really shallow surface fake portrayal of our summarizing our lives in this fake way. I think it's going to be a lot like thinking about it as solitaire.
Yeah.
Of like, wow, that's what we were using it for.